But do you think Bad Bunny is a good choice for the Super Bowl?
I'm not that knowledgeable about him, but it seems fine. And I don't know why it's a big deal. Seems like a great American artist. So sure.
He's not an American artist, but
he's Puerto Rican. That's part of America, dear.
Yeah. You don't think you have any problem with him saying like the ICE is, well, I'm sure you don't, mother effers and sons of and that he's
people in her audience. This is not on the Breaking Points channel. Everyone seems to side with Krystal, as it says here. This crystal ball gal is making a lot of sense. That's the top comment. Really telling how Tomi approached the entire debate in bad faith and talking points while Krystal was actually trying to discuss matters seriously. Tomi got cooked in this interview. Krystal 1, Tomi 0. Tomi cannot hang with Krystal in this convo. I don't like Crystal Ball and I hate Mamdani, but holy shit, Tomi is literally incapable of debating or engaging with anyone or anything. Incredible.
The vanguard will be there, sir.
We've got Crystal Ball destroying Tomi Lahren, a name I haven't heard in a long time since she got shit canned from The Blaze because she was kind of low-key based on abortion.
Yeah, her last stand, where it was like, oh, maybe she's actually going to be kind of like an independently minded, someone who's willing to be an unorthodox thinker. Apparently not, because ever since that moment where, yeah, she was like, I am pro-choice and got fired for it. Ever since then, she's just totally, reverted back into being like the bombshell blonde version of Bill O'Reilly. Like, I'm not even kidding you guys. Despite the way she looks, the content coming out of her mouth is no different than motherfuckers like Bill O'Reilly and fucking Sean Hannity, like the least interesting kind of old guard of conservative Fox News media establishment to the bones. Not even going to entertain some of the more, interesting, edgy notions that online right-wing commentators dabble in these days. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? Tomi Lahren is a real throwback to 2008. It's pretty funny to see like how little she's actually really adapted to the times. And it's funny, because of how irrelevant she is. You'd think she would be trying harder to adapt to the times, Zach, but I was shocked to see this. Tomi Lahren's channel that this video is posted on only has 71,000 subscribers. That's significantly less than the Vanguard. We have almost 120,000 subscribers, and I don't even feel like that's bragging to say like that's not that many. That's like a small channel, a pretty niche small channel. For Tomi Lahren to have like almost half as many subscribers as we do, despite being on The Blaze, despite being on Fox News, that is genuinely pretty shocking to me. And if we look over here at the actual video view counts, I mean, this is just humiliating. Obviously, every channel, has a breakthrough video every once in a while. This one got like 179,000 views, but look at the majority of these videos. This one only has 2.4 thousand views. This one only has 1,000 views from 4 days ago. 3.3 thousand views.
Like Jillian Michaels.
Yeah, it's like Jillian Michaels for real. 5.5, 2.9, 4.6. Like if Zach and I were dropping videos on the regular that got this few views, we'd have to have a serious conversation about what we're doing wrong, about what we need to change up and do differently, about like, a different approach, perhaps like changing our thumbnails. I don't know. Like that would be bad. We definitely would barely be able to, maintain the show as our full-time job on that kind of income, which tells me that she's clearly taking sponsorship money. She's clearly on one of these payrolls. I don't know who's funding it, but she's definitely not an independent media figure who's just independently financed, like a channel like the Vanguard, which is 100% audience funded. That's clear because again, we know how much a video that gets 4,000 views makes. It's not very much, guys. It's like what do you think? Maybe like $20-$30? Like
$18. $18.
Yeah.
I mean, that video is only 5 minutes and 34 seconds long. She's probably making, $18.50 off of that video. If she's making any money at all, that could be like $5. You never really know.
Let's take a look here, Zach, because this one is pretty funny, as you guys can see here. Tomi Lahren wishes Crystal Ball good luck with socialism. And I thought this was shockingly conducted, Zach. I'm not going to lie. Not that I had any like real expectations or like not that I would have any reason to expect a good faith conversation from Tomi, obviously, but I still was like, okay, you know, she's not very relevant anymore. She needs attention. I figured she'd at least treat Krystal with respect and decency as another woman in online media. I don't know. And again, like Krystal literally does a show with Sagar where she sits there and talks to a Republican for the most part very respectfully every single day. So for Tomi to come in here and treat Krystal like this, like she's some like fucking blue-haired college kid on a campus who's like I don't know. It's crazy to me that Tomi just decided to conduct this interview in such a mean-spirited, you know, bad faith way, not clearly in no way actually interested in what Krystal's opinions are, or like understanding them in an authentic fashion, but just trying to get cheap gotchas and like pander to this Fox News kind of audience that like hates communism and is like scared of socialism and stuff like that, and illegal aliens, right? As she likes to call them.
Totally tone deaf and out of touch, and I think the whole conversation is indicative of that.
Yeah, and again, it's just bizarre that like you think that she would see people like Tucker Carlson going on breaking points and like stuff like that and be like, oh, well, maybe like at least this is a leftist I can have a respectful dialogue with, in the same way that like fucking Tucker Carlson can go on breaking points and shit like that. And like Krystal is very capable of talking to, again, conservatives all the time. She does it every day with either Emily Jasinski or Sagar and Jetty. It's crazy to me that Tomi Lahren came in here with this kind of energy, and to prove that it was the wrong move. We're going to show you the comment section afterwards, because shockingly, I don't see anyone in her own audience defending her. It's crazy. It's crazy. So again, we're not going to watch the whole thing, but this is a really good segment where they talk a little bit about the whole, like, you know, Democrats calling Republicans fascists / Nazis, and whether or not that equates to a call for violence. Krystal absolutely shuts her down here. And then I also thought it'd be worth reacting to towards the end, their debate over Zohran Mamdani.
Great.
So joining me now to have the discussion is liberal commentator and co-host of Breaking Points with Krystal and Sagar is Krystal Ball. Krystal, it's so great to have you. I want to have the discussion. I know that you tweet a lot about it, and I'm very interested to hear if you think President Trump is a fascist, and if you think that I, by definition, as a conservative, am also a fascist.
I don't think everyone who supports President Trump is a fascist. I do think that President Trump is a fascist, though. And I'll give you a perfect example, Tomi. It's kind of an awkward day for you to give this spiel, because Trump is speaking to all the generals today in Quantico, and he just said that he's going to use the military against the enemy within, which is part and parcel of what he's been doing with deploying the National Guard in cities across the country. So when you ask about definition of fascism, the president really sort of gave his own definition of fascism today. I know you want to agree with that, but let me just make a broader point here.
Yeah, I want to dive into
Well, let me just make a broader point here, because, you know, I think as someone who came from a side that did a lot of tone policing, and by the way, called out people who were policing rhetoric and doing the whole cancel culture thing, I would really caution you from going down this path, especially as someone who, you know, is a commentator, uses your words for a living. I know in the past, I did a little bit of research. You called people who were enforcing mask protocols Nazis. President Trump has, of course, used his language in quite aggressive ways, including calling Kamala Harris and others fascists, radical leftists, communists, et cetera, et cetera. Do I think that that was inciting violence against Kamala Harris? Do I think you were inciting violence against people who were enforcing mask mandates? No. So I think we have to really maintain this commitment to First Amendment free speech, even in the face of incredible crackdowns from this administration in ways that are truly extraordinary and quite dystopian.
I would love to hear about the First Amendment crackdowns from this administration and what you would classify those as. But I want to go back to President Trump this morning. And again, I know that the liberals, I know that you all love it when he says something and it's like, oh my God, this is the definition. He's going to use the military against us. Well, I would argue it's well within his rights to use the National Guard in DC, and DC is pretty great place right now, by all accounts, because of his use of the National Guard there to keep people safe, mostly black and brown people, I would
This
add.
lady's dumb as
But
rock.
also, when you are deploying troops to protect federal agents and federal buildings, you're also well within your right. That's not authoritarian. It's if you want to have Antifa lighting the streets on fire and terrorizing people in these cities, President Trump is going to protect his agents and he's going to protect federal assets.
Can we pause it
So I don't know
really
what
quick?
part of that you think.
She just immediately moved the goalpost. She was like, I would love to hear what you think about that Donald Trump has done to violate the First Amendment, and then completely starts talking about something different. Does not give Krystal Ball an opportunity to answer. So I'll chime in and say two words, one full gentleman's name, Mahmoud Khalil. This guy has had his green card stripped away. He was in prison because of an op-ed that he wrote, because of fucking protests that he did, demonstrations that are legally and fully protected by the Constitution of the United States.
Yep, 100%. It's completely outrageous. Not to mention, like outlawing the burning of the American flag, an undeniable assault on what is clearly an exercise in free speech and protest against our government, something that we're supposed to be allowed to do, I thought. So yeah, obviously that's completely ridiculous, but they get into this kind of extended conversation about the National Guard thing, which you guys can check out. Krystal Ball obviously destroys Tomi Lahren there. We're going to jump to the Zoran Mamdani section, but I really did love that moment at the very beginning of the conversation where Krystal Ball just totally dispatches with this idiotic notion that, oh, it's only people on the left that call their opponents Nazis. Are you kidding me? Like, I'm not going to deny that that happens. Obviously, it does happen. Leftists have pretty much, ever since Trump's arrival on the scene, a lot of leftists, myself included, have been drawing the very accurate and clear historical parallels between Trump and his movement and the movement of Adolf Hitler and Nazi Germany. Like, they're undeniable. I'm sorry. Other people have also, referenced Mussolini. I remember when the Mango Mussolini meme was big with the resistance libs. But again, it's not just liberals that do this shit. As Krystal mentioned, Tomi Lahren was one of the thousands and thousands of Republicans who made the cliche and lazy analogy to Nazi Germany during freaking COVID, right? When you were supposed to like put on a mask and get your COVID shot. All
and
of them
Donald
freaked
Trump
out.
was president.
Yeah, that was under Donald Trump. Great point. But they all, a lot of them had to like apologize. I think that one chick lost her show on Disney Plus or whatever. Gina, whatever the fuck, that one fascist right winger who had was like on The Mandalorian. I think she called them Nazis and had to get canceled. And fucking RFK had to apologize because he put out a statement like calling the unvaccinated people, like equating them to like Anne Frank or something fucking stupid like that. So save me the bullshit.
The only people who are immune from COVID-19 are Chinese people and the Ashkenazi Jews.
That is a direct quote from RFK. Okay, RFK said that. It was an insane anti-Semitic thing to say.
Exactly. Yeah, I forgot about that one, but yeah, it was crazy, right? The right wingers will jump at any opportunity to compare their political opponents to Nazis, and again, it's not even accurate in the way that it is when we do that shit. Like, I'm sorry to just be like, we're right and you're wrong, but there actually are genuine parallels that have to be pointed out between Trump and his rise and the rise of lots of other authoritarians and fascists, again, from Mussolini to Hitler. Like, you pick whichever one you want. If you don't like Hitler, you can pick another one. This is also a good part of the conversation. So let's just start from here. This is a great example of Krystal, again, just totally doing away with the lazy attempt at a gotcha. I hadn't even heard about this one, Zach, but I guess there was like a school principal or someone who was like an educational administrator in Iowa who was actually like here illegally or whatever, and he might get deported. Have you heard about this?
No, I'm actually not familiar with this. I didn't get to this part in the conversation.
Okay, well, again, I haven't heard about it either because I don't, consume a bunch of deranged right-wing hysteria where they're trying to convince me that immigrants are taking over the world and like, raping my kids or whatever. But, that's the hot story. Window. Yeah, exactly. This principal, bro, this upstanding member of the community, bro. Can you believe it? He was here illegally. But watch how Krystal just brilliantly does away with the attempt at this hysteria. Like I said, this attempt to fucking fearmonger about immigrants. I love the way that Krystal stands up for the immigrant community, and more Democrats would be well suited to follow in her footsteps instead of trying to kowtow to bigots on the right.
What do you think about that Iowa superintendent who's an illegal alien? What do you think about him getting that job? Are you cool with that one too, or you're going to surprise me maybe?
I mean, in terms of his performance on the job, it seems like he did a good job. The community is out protesting his potential deportation because he was getting test scores back up after there was COVID learning loss. And, you know, I mean, to me, this is someone who apparently is exactly the type of person we would want in this country, not just when he was in Des Moines, but he also had a high-level role in St. Louis school systems and Pennsylvania school district. He was considered an outstanding principal in the Washington, D.C. school system. He's been in the country for decades, and he seems exactly like the sort of person that we should reward with citizenship, who's a tremendous benefit to our country and to his community.
The weapons they found, that doesn't concern you at all?
I thought you were a 2A girl.
I am a 2A girl, but illegal aliens doesn't apply to them, babe. They don't get to just walk around willy-nilly.
I don't have a problem with someone having a hunting rifle personally.
So you don't care if illegal aliens have?
No, I think he should have
firearms?
Citizenship. That's my point. I don't really understand why you guys think the story is like a good one. And your side,
because Democrats tell us that they're not getting these jobs. You guys tell us they're not.
He's not the stereotype that you're trying to perpetuate about undocumented immigrants. You know, he has been an upstanding community member for decades. He's served school districts. He's been a fantastic educator. He was performing, apparently, according to locals, he was performing quite admirably in this job right here. So no, I believe that immigrants are a net benefit to society. And I believe someone like him should have been rewarded with citizenship long ago. Now, clearly he lied in the job application process. Yeah. That's not acceptable, etc.
Does that not bother you at all?
This is exactly why we need. Well, to me, it's an example of how immigrants benefit our country and why we need a path to citizenship so that people can be brought out of the shadows and can contribute openly in society the way that this man was.
So I guess my larger question here isn't about maybe himself.
LOL, again, having to move the goalpost because you don't actually have any fucking dirt on this poor innocent man who's facing fucking deportation after decades serving this fucking country as an educational administrator, and not just Iowa, but apparently in St. Louis and Washington, D.C. as well. Never had any issues, never committed any crimes. I'm sure if he had, he would have already been deported, right? He clearly had a hunting rifle. She tried to smear him and say that, like, there's some nefarious reason for that, or like imply that like he was a violent person because he had a hunting rifle. It's completely throwing in the trash your supposed, diehard defense of gun ownership and against the government tyranny. Take it from my cold dead hands. Well, now you're fucking defending the police state infringing upon people's rights to defend themselves. Like, what the fuck is this? This is so insane. And again, she can't actually come up with anything that he's done wrong. So when Krystal points out that he's actually a very, productive member of the community, someone that his fellow community members have been defending, when she points this out, once again, Tomi just has to move the fucking goalpost.
Yeah, no, this is a master class by Krystal Ball right here, because it's one of those great examples of if you just tackle this like a normal human being, like, yeah, this guy was great at his job. The community is outraged. I mean, this is exactly what the American dream is. You come to America, you work hard, you become a member of your community, you have a right to bear arms, you have a right to do all of these things. If the guy lied on his job application, that's for administrators to take a look at. But for me, as a woman who's just analyzing the situation, it seems like he's a net benefit to his community. And I think it's an outrage to see somebody that's been targeted who hasn't committed a crime. And to your point, Gavin, if he had been guilty of committing a crime, he would have been long gone by now. But people like Anna Kasparian, people who, tried to really give Donald Trump the benefit of the doubt, people like Cenk Uygur, the Young Turks, we talked about it ad nauseum. They constantly reassured people like, oh, Donald Trump only wants to get rid of the criminals. Oh, Donald Trump is only interested in deporting people who have done violent crimes in this country. Meanwhile, people like Krystal Ball, people like the Vanguard have come out here every single day and said that was never the case. That's not the case now. This is 100% an effort to persecute and marginalize anybody who is undocumented. This is all an element of a fascist takeover that's being led by Donald Trump, our president. And Krystal Ball does a great job of going into hostile territory and making Tomi Lahren, the host, look like the fool.
Yep. And I'm so glad Krystal did this. Krystal was just saying on the show the other day that like she wasn't ever going to go back on Piers Morgan's panel, and that she was like increasingly frustrated and like not really seeing the point of even participating in these sort of debates and clashes with right-wing personalities online, which I totally understand. But when we show you guys the comment section, you're going to see why this was a great decision on Krystal's part to participate in this attempted ambush. She totally survived the ambush.
I want to talk a little bit about New York City. I don't know if you're a Mamdani fan or not, but you are a big fan of Mamdani?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you are? Okay. So he wants to provide $65 million for gender-affirming care. I want to play the clip, and then I want you to tell me why we should be footing the bill for that. Let's take a listen.
It is absolutely disgusting that this federal administration do. They are looking to erase trans folks from the very fabric of this country. And it's up to us to actually show what leadership can look like. And one of the things that we've said beyond saying you're ethnic tracing for LGBTQIA plus enrollers, beyond saying you're going to establish an office of LGBTQIA plus affairs, is also that we're going to provide $65 million of funding for gender-affirming care, the same amount of funding that the federal government pull out from local providers for that agreement.
Can you pause it really quick?
So do you think that they should be
Shout out to Vanguardian, friend of the show, listener of the show, Laverne Cox, Vanguard subscriber, at times chatter. Shout out to you, Laverne Cox, for using your platform to help get Zohran Mamdani elected. And super exciting to hear that this is a policy that he has where they're going to supplement the money that was stripped of funding from the federal government. This is awesome. And my other addition, just before we let Krystal Ball wax, is this has literally nothing to do with Tomi Lahren unless she lives in New York City, which I don't believe she does.
Yeah, no, I think she lives in Tennessee.
For that agreement.
So do you think that they should be footing the bill for the gender-affirming care?
I mean, Tomi, I think everyone should get healthcare. So yes, I think trans people should get healthcare as well. And what he's talking about is, number one, consistent with New York law, which requires gender affirming care to be provided. And number two, consistent with, basic moral values. Yeah, I think trans people should be able to get healthcare. And one thing I want to say about this, which, personally, I think we should all get healthcare, access to healthcare. So
you think we should pay for everybody's gender transition?
I think that we should pay for gender affirming care, which is medically required for trans people to feel okay. And I think it's disgusting the way that trans people have been turned into scapegoats by this administration, who is more interested in fighting a culture war than really exposing the fact that they are doing the bidding of billionaires, and that those are the people who we really should be upset about, not trans people, not immigrants. But these are all distraction tactics to keep us from talking about the issues that really actually unite Americans.
I'm not so sure paying for gender affirming care or transitions for everybody is necessarily something that unites Americans. I think there was a pretty effective ad leading up to the election last year.
That's definitely twisting my words.
It's about New York City. It's about New York City, Tomi. It doesn't matter what the fuck people of America want. Have you looked at the polls? The people of New York want Zohran Mamdani to be mayor. Do you know why they want Zohran Mamdani to be mayor? Because he has a heart and soul, because he's an ethical guy that believes in equitable access to healthcare. He believes in rent control. He believes in making New York affordable for them. And you think people are going to be pissed about that because you got to raise the taxes on some asshole that made a fortune on Wall Street? I got a bridge to sell you, Tomi.
I'm not so sure paying for gender affirming care or transitions for everybody is necessarily something that unites Americans. I think there was a pretty effective ad leading up to the election last year.
That's definitely twisting my words. That's the opposite of what I said. What I said is the tactics are used to divide and distract from the fact that Trump is giving away the store to his billionaire buddies. So no, he wants to do that. And I support him doing that, by the way. And I also support him not running away from the issue. And this is part of what people like about Zohran. Putting the issue specifics aside, they like that he stands on business. He's sort of like the Democrats' Trump in a way. Maybe that'll make sense to you. He doesn't run away from his views. He stands on business. He says things that get people, oh my God, I can't believe he said that. I can't believe he said he'd stay here in New York City rather than run to Israel first thing when he's elected. And he's like, yeah, that's what I think. The fact that he actually fights for something and stands for affordability and being New York first, That's exactly why people have found him so incredibly appealing.
Is it affordable to pay $65 million for gender affirming care or $100 million for free lawyers to help illegals facing deportation? Is that in the best interest of New York City and their budget?
Really quick?
Well, you may not be.
If I were Krystal right here, I'm asking Tomi if she knows how many people live in New York City. I'm immediately calling. I'm like, how many people do you think live in New York City? She's not going to know. She's going to take a guess and she's going to say, I don't know. If she's lucky, she'll say 10 million. And I'd say close. So do you know how much we'd have to tax X, Y, and Z? Okay, we're not going to tax the bottom half. No, anybody who's in the bottom half of income earners, blah, blah, blah. All right, great. This is going to impact, 10,000 guys that made over, $150 million last year. Tomi, why are you looking out for those guys instead of the people in your audience who are hardworking Americans? That's how you spin that shit on her. You know what I mean?
I mean, that's kind of what Krystal's about to do, in a sense, not with the exact, asking her how many people live in the city or whatever, but in this defense of taxing the rich, which, as she's going to have to explain to Tomi, is actually a popular and populist policy.
Aware, but there are a lot of immigrants and there are a lot of queer people in New York City. So yes, there is a segment of New York society that will benefit. But more to the point, Zoran's politics are a unifying politics because he's led his campaign with, hey, let's bring down the cost of public transportation. Hey, let's make it so that people can afford childcare, so that childcare could actually be free. Hey, let's make sure people can actually afford rent in the city.
And how is he going to do
leadership, which has mostly been, well, let me get to that in a second. Most leadership in New York City has been Democratic, and they have turned the city into a playground of the rich. And so many working middle class people have been forced out of the city. He's saying, what if we ran the city actually for all of us? So we prioritize people who are working and middle class being able to actually live here. So I'll give you, I'm sure you are familiar with, some of his policy proposals, and I'm not going to go through all like 30 or whatever, but the top of the list, he's got free childcare. He's got free public buses. He's got an affordable housing surge plus a rent freeze for rent-controlled apartments. And he's got, this pilot program that got a lot of attention for the public subsidized grocery stores to help in places that are food deserts.
Yeah, so
these are honestly very modest proposals that help to get the housing and the affordability crisis under control in a very expensive city.
I mean, how is he going to pay for the free for everybody? I'm just curious because
let's tax the rich, baby.
So we're just going to tax all the rich. So you think that'll work? You think if you just tax all the rich people that they're just going to
Tomi, you don't think rich people should pay a little bit more?
No.
You don't think the rich people are shirking their burden? I mean, the extraordinary amount of wealth that has been consolidated in the hands of the wealthy is insane. And they pay a lower tax burden if you look at their net worth than like average middle class people. It's overwhelmingly popular.
So you don't think
tax the rich, including among MAGA Republicans. I mean, this is something that Steve Bannon has talked about. Right now, the people that are leaving New York City are not the rich. It's the working class and the middle class who are priced out of that city. And so,
by the way, I just have to give it up to Krystal for this absolutely powerhouse performance. Just bulldozing over these bullshit talking points. She's setting the narrative, and it's not even on her show. That's a real talent. I don't think Tomi knew what she was getting into here. If Tomi had approached this intelligently, again, she would have been respectful. She would have actually been interested in having a real good faith conversation with Krystal to understand her ideology. But by treating her like shit and disrespecting her, she unleashed this bull. And Krystal is just fucking, rampaging over all of this crap. She's not even letting Tomi barely fucking speak. It's glorious.
Yeah, 100%. And we've talked about this a lot, how Krystal Ball might be the most effective debater on the American left, but I think she adopts a lot of the same debate tactics that people enjoy in a guy like Destiny, right? A guy like Destiny who is going to dominate the discourse, a guy who is going to, as you said, Gavin, set the parameters of the debate. No, this might be your show, but I'm talking. You invited me on to talk now, so guess what? I am going to talk, and I am going to be the dominant figure in this debate. I am going to own the ideas better than you. When you try and set me up with a gotcha, I'm going to flip the script on you, and I'm going to do it because I'm confident, because I'm well-researched, and I have right on my side. Krystal Ball seamlessly weaves all of those things together, except she's not a caustic prick. She's not a child sex predator. She's a mom right? So it really makes you look like shit if you're rude to her. And that's what these conservatives haven't figured out yet. When people look at Krystal Ball, they do not see a crazy lady. They do not see a blue-haired leftist or some deranged Zohran Mamdani supporter like a hysterical socialist. No, they see a regular lady that they could run into at the grocery store or at a PTA meeting. And they're looking at her and they're saying, you know what? I might disagree on the margins with this lady, but she's making a good point. Why are we talking about this niche issue when no working class people can afford to live in New York? And that's what this guy wants to deal with. He says, yeah, property's too expensive in New York. Nobody can afford the fucking rent. We want to change that. So anybody listening that's not a 100% hysterical ideologue is going to side with Krystal.
Yeah,
That's
they
what he's
certainly
laser
are.
focused on.
But you don't think that if you just pay for all of these free programs by taxing the rich, you think that the rich people are just going to stay there and keep their money there and they're just going to fund all this? You think so?
Yeah, I do. They've done research, Tomi, and they have found that there, is very little evidence that the rich will just pick up and leave New York because they have to pay a little bit more in taxes. New York has a lot that's going for it. There's a lot of reasons why wealthy business owners, Wall Street, et cetera, want to congregate in this great American city. And no, I don't see that changing or going away. But I do think the city should be run more for its middle class and working class residents than for the rich. And apparently New Yorkers agree.
How much more are you going to have to tax these rich people to pay for all of the free programs for New Yorkers and for the illegal?
Tomi seems to have a fundamental misunderstanding of what is making New York City in particular so expensive, right? She seems to think, it's just a bunch of happy-go-lucky rich people and, things got more expensive. Sorry, the poorest can't handle it. But what's really going on is that all of these rich assholes are invested up into their fucking eyeballs with real estate. It's a hyperinflated real estate market for a bunch of assholes that are using New York City, Manhattan in particular, but now a lot of Brooklyn as their own fucking piggy bank. Okay, as a way to continue to appreciate capital. They've bought up all the fucking apartments. They've bought up all the buildings. Okay, the banks, the fucking global aristocrats. They have bought up all the fucking apartments. So yeah, I do think they're going to do one of two things. They're going to sell at a loss, or they are going to pay more in fucking taxes. Either way, it solves the housing crisis, homie. And when you couple that with rent control, you are going to start to see more people who are able to afford to live in Manhattan, which has been cut off to them because of a bunch of empty fucking apartments that rich assholes in Saudi Arabia and fucking Virginia, United States of America, and San Jose, that's where those people are hoarding their fucking cash.
Yep, 100%. Plus, it's just hilarious, this scaremongering about the how are we going to pay for it? How are you going to pay for it? As Jonathan pointed out, shout out to you, Jonathan, for providing the actual data here. The budget for NYC in 2025 was almost 116 billion. So to pearl clutch over a figure like 65 million, which obviously sounds like a lot of money, it is a lot of money. But in the context of the entire budget, it really is nothing. It's kind of like the opposite of when, they were cutting little things here and there from when Doge was, doing their shit. And they were like, see how much money we've cut? And it's like, actually, that's less than 1% of the entire federal budget. It's kind of like that. It's like, yeah, you can say 65 million and make it sound like a lot of money to just a normal person. But if you put it in context, it's a whole different story. And the fact that Tomi just thinks she can get away with that because her audience is so fucking stupid tells you everything about the respect she has for her viewers.
Oh, 100%. And I'll just add that the money they cut for Doge was starving children in Africa just so that they could get a single tweet out that was totally innocuous and the national debt, we're fighting the deficit. It's like, no, you're not. You're starving hungry kids in Africa.
Yep. And also cutting research for pediatric care for American children and cutting disease prevention. So we're going to have 1 million more pandemics and bird flus, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. All that totally unnecessary spending, which in reality is probably the best stuff going on that the government does. Literally the only good things that the American government contributes to society and the world at large. Yeah. Let's cut all that. But let's watch a little bit more of this because, Krystal just does such a great job defending Zohran, shutting down Tomi's bullshit. And you can see Tomi getting increasingly pissed off. She knows she's losing this exchange. She knows she's getting destroyed. And you can tell she's getting seriously agitated. She's not she's actually pissed off.
You think how much more do you think you can squeeze out of the wealthy there?
Well, I'm not Zoran's budget director, so you have to ask him that question.
I don't know if he
but
has one.
Compared to their level of wealth, he's been very detail oriented, which is something, frankly, I was concerned about, because I want to make sure that not only is he able to win, but he's able to govern effectively. And so if you listen to his interviews, if you review his policy proposals, you'll see this is not some like dyed-in-the-wool ideologue. He's been very open to, input, including from the business community, including from more moderate Democrats. And yeah, he's put pen to paper and has the numbers to back it up. Now,
But
he
when
may
you just
have
say tax
the
everybody,
challenge he's going to
that's
have.
not really,
Yeah.
that's not really pen to paper. That's just somebody else will pay
Well, I
for
didn't
all
really
of my
say tax
things.
everybody. I said tax the rich.
Oh, just
and I do
tax the
think
rich. Okay.
the rich should be taxed, not just in New York, but across the country.
Oh, okay.
And America agrees with me.
We should all
because
just
they've
get
rigged the
poorer
system to
together.
their benefit.
Socialism
They've
sounds
rigged the
great.
system to their benefit. I mean, they just got a gigantic tax cut from this administration. So if
Everybody
we just
did.
gave that back, that would be
Everybody
it
got
was
a tax cut.
overwhelmingly the rich, though.
Our GDP
it
went
was
up too.
overwhelming the rich.
Yeah.
Oh, we're doing
And
great
if
right now.
you just
pause
gave
it?
that back, we would be headed.
This is why she has no career. We were sitting here being kind, being charitable. We were like, why isn't Tomi succeeding? She had all these opportunities. She's dumb. She's dumber than fucking dirt. And not only that, she has no legitimate analysis to offer. All she's doing is spitting out chat GPT talking points from conservatives from 100 years ago. Are you fucking kidding me? Oh, well, let's just all get poorer when we tax the rich. It's like, nah, we would get richer, doggy. We would get richer. Everybody else would do better. That glamorous time in American history, the 1950s, which you love to fantasize about. Guess what the top marginal tax rate was then? It was like 90%. Let's go back to that, huh? Let's go back to that then.
Yeah, it seems like Tomi really doesn't have much of an understanding of like the independent media landscape. Like she's treating this interview like it's a Fox News hit where it's going to cut to commercials in a few minutes after she gets in a few like fun gotchas or whatever. But that's not how this works. Even right-wingers, to their credit, it seems like a lot of them these days, when they're watching like a podcast version of a conversation, they do actually want some level of intellectual curiosity, even if it's like feigned. But like, think of Joe Rogan's popularity. He'll actually have on interesting people from across the spectrum, or at least he used to, and he would have good conversations with them. Like Tomi's not even pretending to do that. She has no intellectual curiosity whatsoever. She's not actually trying to understand Krystal's views. She's just doing all these gotchas. Like she's like an 8-year-old or something, like jeering at Krystal. Well, Krystal's in the middle of making her point, trying to get in these weird gotcha points, like before Krystal's even done with her thought. It's very bizarre. It's not connecting at all, and it just makes us all awkward and feel very immature on Tomi's part.
In a better direction, because I do think the rich deserve, I do think the rich should have to participate in society, that they should, yes, pay back into the society that helped them become so incredibly wealthy, and that we have to deal with these wildly unequal Gilded Age plus levels of wealth inequality that we're dealing with right now. Yeah.
Socialism has usually worked so well as its cousin communism. You're right. We should definitely
Tomi,
give that
there's a
go.
reason. There's a reason that Bernie Sanders is the most popular politician.
Like, that's what I mean. That was a perfect example of just what I was talking about. Like, Krystal explains her position, and Tomi, like, she's like a fucking, like, mean girl in high school or something. She's like, oh yeah, because communism has always worked so well in the past. Like, it's so fucking cringe.
She's a total brat.
Yep. All right. So you've heard enough of the Zoran conversation. Let's skip to the last like 3 minutes of this.
Oh my God.
Talking about Bad Bunny. I'm sure that nothing problematic is going to be said here.
Well, if we just add really quickly, like I went through the list with Salisa, my girlfriend, the other day, and we were talking about like, oh, let's go back and let's see who have all of these acts been. Bad Bunny is par for the course. Okay, he's a ginormous fucking pop star. It makes total sense for the NFL to go after him, and this is just the kind of recycled faux outrage that the conservatives love to get. Guys, I remember in 2022 when Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, and Eminem were performing at that Super Bowl halftime show, and they were like, well, this isn't reflective of family values. It's like, bro, those are three of the most popular musicians and men in America, in American popular culture. Like, what are you talking about? You just hate black people. You just hate Latino people so bad that you cannot understand that the rest of the fucking free thinking country super excited for Bad Bunny.
Yeah, no, it's a annual tradition at this point for conservatives. Just like how they have to pretend every year that there's a war on Christmas, they also have to get all worked up about the Super Bowl. They've been doing it my entire fucking life. Remember when Beyonce did the Black Power, like Black Panther homage at the Super Bowl back in like
that was a
10
while
years
ago.
Yeah, that's my point. My whole fucking life, they've been bitching and moaning about the fucking Super Bowl halftime show, like it even fucking matters. But either way, let's take a look here. Again, let's get ready for some totally unproblematic commentary on Mr. Bunny.
The last thing I want to talk to you about is because I'm about ready to do my commentary on it. But do you think Bad Bunny is a good choice for the Super Bowl?
I'm not that knowledgeable about him, but it seems fine, and I don't know why it's a big deal. Seems like a great American artist, so sure.
He's not an American artist, but
he's Puerto Rican. That's part of America, dear.
Yeah, you don't think you have any problem with him saying like the ICE is? Well, I'm sure you don't. Mother effers and sons of and that he's not going to perform here due to immigration.
America agrees with him on that. Majority of Americans think ICE has gone too far. They've watched videos of 79-year-old business owners be slammed to the ground and their ribs broken by ICE. So I think the American people are probably on board with that message at this point, Tommy.
Okay.
I can't believe
whoever you're talking to, I'm sure.
Country.
I couldn't tell if she didn't know that or if she was just intentionally being racist by not including them as Americans.
I think she thought Puerto Rico was a country, bro. I mean, when I'm watching that, I'm thinking, oh my God, you think Puerto Rico is a country? You fucking idiot! You fucking dumbass! Oh my God! To me, it comes across like she thought it was going to be a huge own. Like, okay, well, he's not from America; he's from Puerto Rico. It's like, dude, you dumb fuck. This is why you don't have a career. You can't even chill properly.
Yeah, it's just the most low effort racism. Like I said, so 2009 coded, very Santa Claus is white and so is Jesus. If you remember Megyn Kelly back in the day, that kind of shit, that kind of energy, that's really all you got. That's really all you got. But here, let's listen to the end of this.
Of 79-year-old business owners be slammed to the ground and their ribs broken by ICE. So I think the American people are probably on board with that message at this point, Tommy.
Okay. Well, whoever you're talking to, I'm sure is. I'm not so sure the rest of the country is, but
I'm just looking at the polls. That's all.
Yeah, but you told me earlier the polls didn't matter, Krystal.
That are behind my statements, not just the vibes.
Matter. Remember that when you told me that earlier?
Yeah, because principles don't matter. Principles matter. Principles matter. And but when you're talking about where the American people are, that's when I consult the data. But in terms of what I believe,
it's helpful to you,
those are principles. No, in terms of what I believe, those are my principles, and I stand by them even when they're unpopular.
Well, I love that you do that. So that's the one thing that we can agree on, is that you should stand by your principles and the polls when they're advantageous to your side. Krystal, I enjoy the conversation. Thank you for having it, and best of luck with the Democrat socialist endeavor in America.
Careful what you wish for, girl.
Best of luck.
Ooh, the claws came out there. Again, you think? I don't know. I don't watch a lot of Tomi's content. I don't know how she usually conducts herself. It does blow my mind that she doesn't even have any respect for Krystal. She can't even be like, you're another woman in media. Obviously, Krystal's channel at this point is way bigger than Tomi's. She's way more relevant. You'd think just from a business perspective or a, smart media, let's have allies in the space. Maybe I'll get invited on Breaking Point someday perspective. You think she'd at least treat Krystal with some level of decency instead of treating that whole interview like an extended Fox News hit where you were supposed to belittle and humiliate a woke Democrat. It's just crazy that she had no respect for Krystal, who, as I said, does a show every day where she politely and respectfully talks to conservatives, Sagar and Jetty, Emily Jasinski, etc. It's genuinely insane to me that Tomi had to conduct herself like such a you-know-what. If we actually take a look over here at the comment section, you'll see that pretty much everyone in Tomi's audience, people in her audience, this is not on the Breaking Points channel, everyone seems to side with Krystal. As it says here, this crystal ball gal is making a lot of sense. That's the top comment right here. But as you can see, there's other ones like this one saying, really telling how Tomi approached the entire debate in bad faith. and talking points while Krystal was actually trying to discuss matters seriously. Tomi got cooked in this interview. Krystal won, Tomi 0. Tomi cannot hang with Krystal in this convo. I don't like Krystal Ball, and I hate Mamdani, but holy shit, Tomi is literally incapable of debating or engaging with anyone or anything. Incredible. LMFAO, Tomi just got cooked by Krystal. Tomi got cooked. First time watching Tomi, and she's a genuine idiot. A talking head for a regressive political movement. Amen. So nice of Krystal to go on the channels of smaller aspiring content creators. That's an epic fucking burn. Holy shit, dude. I realized we forgot to show these comments off, but they were brutal, dude. Like no one is siding with Tomi, and this is on her channel.
Oh yeah, dude. I'm really glad that you remembered to do this because it'll be good content for the clip. This is absolutely insane. You guys have to understand, when you go to a completely opposite end of the internet and you read the comment section, it's almost always in support of the host and critical of the guest when the guest decides to disagree with the host. It's just something that you get accustomed to, right? Like you just know you're going, like if I were to go and read Hutch's comment section after I debated Hutch with Gavin, after we both went over there and fucking debated Hutch, like that would be crazy. I would be getting totally gaslit. I would be reading nothing but hate about myself and complete misrepresentation of the discussion that we had, the debate that we had right here. When Krystal Ball has gone to Tomi Lahren's YouTube channel, where it's going to be some of the most batshit insane Republicans you've ever seen in your entire life, and she's still coming out on top. People have to be like, look, I disagree with her politics, but she really performed. That's cooking, baby. That is cooking. They call her Krystal the Cook Ball.
Yup. And again, that just shows how ill-advised Tomi was to go into the conversation like this and try to like take Krystal down instead of trying to reason with or understand her, have a good faith conversation, which would have at least been good content, like as far as, you know, seeing two people with different ideologies have a conversation in the same way that Krystal and Sagar is. But yeah, going in with this weird attitude was definitely the wrong move. And pretty much everyone agrees. This person says, I always thought Tomi was a loser, but I never imagined Krystal Ball would come on her show and literally wipe her ass with the floor like that. This is brutal stuff. This is Tomi learning why Steven Crowder and Charlie Kirk only debated college kids. That is brutal. That is just so brutal.
I totally forgot Tomi existed. This feels like a 7th grader debating their teacher. Literally.
You know, I'm glad that Jonathan sent in this super chat, which reminded me to pull this up because he was saying, like, I don't know what the value of this even was. Well, here's the value, Jonathan. After the first 9 months of the Trump administration as a diehard MAGA, I am beginning to open up to some of the progressive Dems. They are making a lot of sense right now. Not a lot of stuff to feel optimistic about, but this comment section, it low-key does make me feel a little bit optimistic, Zach. If people in Tomi Lahren's audience watch this and they were actually like, you know what, this is making me more sympathetic to progressive Democrats and their ideas. That's pretty cool. You know what I'm saying? And shout out for Krystal for doing that good work and putting up with that disgusting disrespect from Tomi Lahren.
Look out the door if you hear an ambulance. The Vanguard will be there, sir. The Vanguard will be there, sir. The Vanguard will be there, sir. The Vanguard will be there.